But I gotta say, and I'm friendly with the ladies on The View, but they didn't say anything about this week. Nothing. You know, because it's never been their thing to weigh in on the issues.
Did y'all really think we weren't gonna talk about Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, have you watched the show over the last 29 seasons? So you know, no one silences us.
Whoopi and The View are in a frenzy, which is kind of hilarious. Just days ago, Bill Maher roasted them for being too scared to even mention Jimmy Kimmel's ongoing issue.
I'm friendly with the ladies on The View, but they didn't say anything about this week. Nothing. You know, because it's never been their thing to weigh in on the issues. You know, it's just an upbeat party show. That's why they hired people named Joy and Sonny and Whoopi. But no, girls, let me go out strong, okay? It won't be you. I promise. It's happened to me, and I may go out after this show. We don't know.
The View has always thrived on jumping into headlines, even when panelists admit they barely get a few hours to prep for major controversies. That's why fans were shocked when Jimmy Kimmel's suspension hit, and the hosts acted like nothing happened. Bill Maher called them out, saying they were too scared of losing their cushy seats to mention it. But then came the twist. The View finally broke their silence. And what they revealed on air left viewers stunned, proving this story is far from over.
Did y'all really think we weren't gonna talk about Jimmy Kimmel? I mean, have you watched the show over the last 29 seasons? So you know, no one silences us. And to all my friends in Italy who reached out, you have to know it's okay, we're still here, we're still broadcasting. And when the news broke last week about Jimmy Kimmel's suspension, we took a breath to see if Jimmy was going to say anything about it first. We did the same thing with Stephen Colbert.
That's not true. In a moment, I'll explain why they finally commented on Jimmy Kimmel's situation. But the idea that they sat by silently to listen to Kimmel, or that they reacted the same way when Colbert's scandal broke, is pure fabrication. Right after Colbert lost his job, The View didn't hesitate. Hosts offered immediate commentary, critique, and hot takes. Whoopi and the co-hosts rarely bite their tongues to avoid controversy. That has never been their style. So Whoopi's claim doesn't hold up when you look at the timeline. No need to stall. Roll the clip now and see how the sequence actually unfolded, for the record.
Then our show was on tape on Friday. But we are live here today, and we're getting into it now. You cannot like a show. Now, I want to make sure I got this right. To be clear, you cannot like a show and it can go off the air. Someone can say something they shouldn't and get taken off the air, but the government cannot apply pressure to force someone to be silent.
Did you notice how uncharacteristically cautious Whoopi was when reading that statement? It was almost comical. She seemed genuinely afraid that one slip could land her in trouble, or even cost her the job. Since when has Whoopi Goldberg ever been known for rigidly sticking to a teleprompter? Exactly never. That nervous delivery gave everything away. And here's the twist. Jimmy Kimmel is already back on ABC after what looks like nothing more than a brief suspension. The View clearly knew he'd be returning, which explains why they only spoke up once it was safe. Suddenly bold. But only once the coast was clear. Meanwhile, Bill Maher kept firing shots at The View.
The FCC says they're going to go after maybe next the View. They got a new show lined up. It's going to be great. It's called Morning Wood with James Wood.
Ma didn't hold back. He openly mocked The View, joking that after Jimmy Kimmel's suspension they might be the next ones swapped out for fresher programming. Honestly, that thought crossed my mind too. Now, to be clear, I'm not on the cancel The View train. Like them or not, they've cemented their spot in daytime TV. But here's the problem. They keep firing off takes without double-checking the facts. They'll stretch a headline, inflate a scandal, and deliver it as truth before the story even settles. That's not fearless. It's careless. If anything, this situation should be a wake-up call. Nobody's saying they should disappear, but credibility matters. If they keep playing loose with accuracy, Ma's jab might not stay a punchline. It could end up being a preview. And yes, he didn't spare Jimmy Kimmel either, tossing in a sharp dig his way.
You know, Jimmy, look, I don't think what he said was exactly right. I don't. We don't agree on that. He didn't lose his job for it. He said the MAGA crowd was trying to characterize the assassin as anything but one of them, because the 22-year-old kid he job, his family was MAGA. As if a 22-year-old with a trans girlfriend never rebelled against their family.
Credit where it's due. Maher is one of the few on the left willing to state the obvious. Jimmy was wrong. Meanwhile, nearly every other comedian bent over backwards to defend Kimmel's remarks, pretending there was nothing remotely offensive about them.
But was he on the left? I don't know that either. And I hate to do this. I'm tipping the end of the show, which I work so hard on to keep a secret from the rest of the show. But it's too relevant. What I'm talking about at the end, I'm going to have to say now, which is that it is a fool's errand to try to say that these nuts who do these things are any team.
Ma cut through the noise, saying Jimmy went too far but didn't deserve to lose his job. And honestly, he's right. Kimmel wasn't fired, just hit with a slap on the wrist, a short suspension meant to look like real punishment. Let's be real, ABC wasn't disciplining him. They were saving face, pretending to hold him accountable while knowing they'd bring him back. Ma nailed it, calling out the charade exactly as it was. That rare honesty set him apart from everyone else twisting themselves into excuses. In a media world full of spin, his blunt take stood out.
You know, look at what this guy is doing. I mean, Jimmy has every right to be wrong, but look at this guy. He was doing porn video games with furries. He was on a game called Furry Shades of Gay 3. This kid is in his basement with VR goggles on, getting virtually by a cartoon wombat. And you're gonna put politics into this?
Bill kept the pressure on with biting sarcasm, mocking Jimmy Kimmel for rushing to blame MAGA without checking the facts. The core of Maher's humor was clear. Kimmel should have slowed down and done his homework instead of politicizing a tragedy to score quick points. A few minutes of fact-checking would have spared him from embarrassing himself on national TV. The reality was simple. The incident wasn't tied to MAGA, ideology, or politics at all. It was the act of a disturbed individual. But Kimmel, eager to ride the anti-MAGA narrative, jumped in without proof. That's why Maher's mockery cut so deep, because it was true. Jimmy's reckless snap judgment exposed him as partisan. Maher's point went beyond comedy. It was a reminder that facts always matter more than spin.
This kid doesn't belong in either party. He belongs in a straitjacket. He's an outpatient who should not be out. But you have the right to be wrong, or to have any opinion you want. That's what the First Amendment is all about. I was defending it last week on this show against what they're doing in England against the left. Come on, guys.
Okay, let's break this down. Jimmy Kimmel's removal from late-night TV wasn't really about his remarks. It was about money. The moment he launched into those anti-MAGA comments, Disney, ABC's parent company, watched its stock take a serious hit. Reports show shares dropped around 2%, wiping out nearly $4 billion in market value within hours. Losses of that scale send shockwaves through executives and investors alike. So ABC didn't pull Kimmel out of morality or principle. They did it to stop the financial bleeding. It was pure damage control. When billions are on the line, protecting shareholders comes first, and Kimmel's suspension became the price of safeguarding Disney's bottom line.
There is no organization. Antifa is a broad designation with no identifiable leader and no observable plan, like the Democrats. So, Jimmy, let me just say, pal, you did a great, funny show for 2 decades. You should be proud of that. If this firing goes for you the way it did for me, you'll get 23 years on a better net.
Ma didn't wrap up his monologue without firing shots at the Democratic Party. And honestly, it was deserved. Ever since their crushing loss in last year's elections, the DNC has been a shadow of its former self. The once polished political machine now looks more like a circus, scrambling for relevance. There's no strong figure to rally behind, no consistent strategy, and certainly no unifying message, just noise. Instead of leading, they've leaned on theatrics, cheap stunts, and endless antics to keep their base engaged. Ma's critique struck a chord because it was true. Democrats aren't shaping the national conversation anymore. They're chasing headlines, fumbling for identity, and waiting desperately for someone, anyone, to step up and lead.
He is letting the so-called comedy show return after a week's suspension. Some broadcasters are refusing to let his show back on air. Nexstar Media Group, which is the largest local TV broadcasting company in the US, announced that its stations will focus on continuing to produce local news and other programming relevant to their respective markets. What good news. Look, the company says, we made a decision last week to preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live following what ABC referred to as Mr. Kimmel's ill-timed and insensitive comments at a critical time in our national discourse. We stand by that decision, pending assurance that all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive.
Now here's where things really start to shift. Some media outlets are hesitating on bringing Jimmy Kimmel back, worried it could put their financial interests at risk. That hesitation isn't just about protecting reputations. It's a direct threat to ABC's bottom line, especially if those partner networks, which normally pay to air Jimmy Kimmel Live, decide to pull out. When revenue is on the line, hesitation is the last thing a network wants. But this isn't just about dollars. It's about a bigger cultural message. The pushback shows audiences, advertisers, and even corporations are growing tired of nonstop partisan commentary. For years, networks assumed the anti-MAGA, woke grandstanding was safe, profitable, and untouchable. But now the cracks are showing. Viewers are tuning out. Advertisers are cautious. And media partners don't want to tie themselves to Kimmel's baggage. This became especially clear when Sinclair, the nation's largest group of ABC affiliates, announced it would preempt Jimmy Kimmel Live across its stations and replace it with news programming. That's not a small move. That's a broadcast giant saying outright that audiences have had enough. And when you look back at Kimmel's content, it makes sense why patience has run thin. He cheered when Donald Trump was banned from nearly every social media platform, mocking him with jokes about